Hi, welcome to Elizabeth's Kind Cafe. I'm Elizabeth Katzman, and today we are welcoming Amanda Hitt to the show. Amanda Hitt is the operations manager at Sasha Farm Animal Sanctuary in Manchester, Michigan, which, for those of you who don't know, is about an hour and a half away from the Birmingham, Bloomfield, Beverly Hills area. Amanda, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, I was really touched by the work that you do at the sanctuary. When we came to visit this summer, I brought, as you remember, my two boys. They're
Right.
2 and 4, and they were given an opportunity to feed the baby calf and the baby goats, and
Yes.
we all had an amazing experience there.
It was a fun day for everyone.
I was hoping we could maybe just tell everybody a little bit about what you do at the sanctuary.
Sure. We're a farmed animal sanctuary. We're the largest one in the Midwest. We do rescue of abused, abandoned, neglected farm animals. We do a little bit with dogs and cats too, but our primary mission is farm animals. So we have everything from chickens all the way up to cows, and everything in between, including an emu now.
Where did the emu come from?
The emu was stray, believe it or not.
A stray emu?
It was a stray emu, and we looked all over trying to get someone to claim him, and no one would. So,
wow. Well, you brought a bunch of photos in, so I thought maybe we could go through the photos and talk a little bit about what's going on.
This was the rescue of the Ann Arbor sheep. For about 6 months, we were getting calls regarding a sheep that was running around Ann Arbor, one of the busiest intersections, all over the place by an Art Van furniture store. If anybody's familiar with Ann Arbor, it was on, I believe it's Eisenhower, right by the mall. Okay. The sheep had stopped traffic. She'd been spotted at a cemetery during a funeral.
During a one-day period or over a long period?
We started getting the first calls about her in September, and we were finally able to catch her, I believe it was January, February.
Wow.
She's been with us almost a year. So it was over a long period of time. She had her own Facebook page. Someone had made her a Facebook page. I think it's still there, called the Ann Arbor Sheep. And finally, we got a call from the employees at the Art Van in Ann Arbor, and they said the sheep has started coming behind our building, and someone's bringing her hay, and they're feeding her. But can you please come get her, because we're really worried that she's going to run in the road. Yeah. And this was the 3rd or 4th time that we'd been out to try to catch her, and so we were concerned too that a chase through Ann Arbor would mean that she would run into traffic. Right. So we got them to set up a pen. Actually, we went out and took the pen. Monty set it up, but they let us set it up against their building, and they started feeding her there. And after, I think it was about the 2nd day, they were able to shut her in and shut the door. And then it just became a matter of chasing her around the pen.
And you have no idea where she came from?
No, no idea. We heard that there was a rumor that someone was keeping her in the apartment complex and they had planned to eat her. There was a rumor that she came from a sheep farm in Dexter, but Dexter's a really long way from there. So who knows?
So she's very lucky. So many things could have gone wrong.
Very lucky. And the best part was everyone was so worried that she was going to be malnourished or something like that. But about a month after we got her, she gave birth to twins. So that whole time, she'd been pregnant running around the streets of Ann Arbor. So perfect timing. Perfect timing. Yeah, we got her just in time.
So now you have the whole family.
We do. We have little Art and Van, and their mom. We had a contest to name the mother, and Matahari won because she was so hard to catch.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at.
This is just our chicken and turkey area. Mm-hmm. That's a rooster named Lewis. Lewis was born to a hen who came to us from an egg-laying facility. And after she came to us, her eggs had always been taken from her, of course, as part of the egg production process. And she was so determined to have a family that she escaped our chicken area and went up in the rafters of the barn. Aww. And hid a nest up there. And no one knew until little Lewis came peeping out. He's, of course, a lot bigger now.
Yeah, nature, you cannot stop it.
Oh, she was determined. Not the first time. We've had turkeys do the same thing. This is Gracie. Gracie is our newest cow. She was rescued by a woman in Alabama who did some dog rescue. She went to take her dog to the vet, and there was a calf and the mother, and the calf wasn't doing well, and they were talking about euthanizing the calf, and she thought it was probably just a matter of some TLC and the calf would be fine. So she offered to buy the calf and the mother from the farmer.
Yeah. And the mother, good for her.
The mother was due to be slaughtered because when she had the calf, she prolapsed. Her uterus prolapsed, and so that meant that probably every subsequent pregnancy that she had, she would need the same vet care. She would prolapse, and
they wouldn't pay for that.
They wouldn't pay for that. So she was going to go to slaughter. So she actually, even though the calf didn't survive, she saved Gracie's life. That's Gracie. And we couldn't find a way to get her from Alabama to here. So Monty actually, Monty is the farm's co-founder. He drove the trailer all the way down to Alabama and got her.
Aw.
That is Hay Day a couple years ago. That's an example of how we use volunteers to help us. That's loading all the hay into the barn. And it used to be, when I started there about 4 years ago, our big barn full of hay would last the entire winter. This year it was gone by mid-January, so it's grown quite a bit.
So how many hay days do you do?
We do about two every year. There's usually a first cutting and a second cutting, and I think that was probably second cutting because it looks like half the barn was already full.
And how many volunteers do you need for that?
It takes, we can get by with 4 or 5, but if we have more, it's better. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a group of our sheep. That's Maynard there with the black and white face with one horn. Maynard was actually a sheep that came to us from animal control. He was abused. Someone had tied him up by the horns and pulled on him so hard that one of his horns broke off and he almost bled to death. So he spent a lot of time in our kitchen with a volunteer sleeping with him, holding pressure on that horn.
Wow. So when did you get him? At what point in the horn broke off?
When he came to us, the horn was almost completely detached, and then he had to have surgery to detach the rest of it so that it wouldn't break loose while he was in the pasture.
This was in Michigan?
Yes, yeah. We get a lot of sheep from the Dearborn area. That's, I guess, because they're eaten more there than other places. So he came to us from Dearborn Animal Control.
Oh, they raise them to eat them?
Yes. Yeah. And that's Jefferson. Jefferson was our big rescue. He's the steer that some people might remember 5 or so years ago ran down Jefferson Avenue in Detroit with the news helicopters following him. It took some serious negotiation on Dorothy's part. Dorothy Davies is our director. She worked really hard to get him from the slaughterhouse. After he was captured, they wanted to just wait it out until the drugs left his system so he could go to slaughter. And she was fiercely determined that that would not happen to him. And so he's living with us now, enjoying his hay.
Yeah, he's doing very well.
He's huge, absolutely huge. He's doubled his size since he came.
How old is he? About?
I want to say he's about 6 now.
Okay.
He's a big boy.
How long do cows, if they're kept in an environment like this, a healthy environment, how long do they live?
25. I mean, 25 is pretty old for a cow. We just lost a female at 21, so up in their mid-20s.
Okay. And there they are.
There they are, our favorite boys. That is Kirk, Karuna, and Krishna, otherwise known as the Little Men. They actually had a great story. A farmer up in Pigeon, Michigan, he had a family farm, and he bought the 3 of them when they were calves with the intention of taking them to slaughter once they were old enough. He bottle fed them, and they became really friendly, and he just couldn't follow through with it. So he called us and said, you know, I have these steers, and because of their size, to most people, they're worth more dead than alive. Mm-hmm. But I really feel like there's a value in them living. But I don't have a pasture and I can't afford to keep them, and my family's really against the idea of me keeping them as pets, so could you take them? And of course, what are we going to do? You know, are we going to say no to that?
Yeah, they really left such a mark with me. I mean, I couldn't believe it. All the animals I would, you know, hug and kiss and everything. But these guys are hugging and kissing me back. I mean, practically ate the shirt off of my back with the big kisses and the just sweet, and the love in their eyes.
Yeah, yeah, you can tell they were, you know, from practically day one, raised by humans, and I can't imagine anyone doing harm to them, the trust they put in us.
Yes.
They're amazing.
And do we have another picture, or was that the last?
Was that it? That's it?
That's the last one? Okay.
I could have brought so many more, but I
oh no, that's plenty. No, I love seeing it. And then there was a baby calf that was hanging out with them when we were there. Where's
that was probably Todd, a little red and white calf.
Yes.
I think that's the one that the boys were feeding.
Yes.
Todd was a veal calf, and Dorothy's birthday was last August, and she decided that she really wanted a calf for her birthday. We hadn't had any tiny calves in a long time, and so she said, you know, the next calf that someone wants us to take, we're going to take it. And that just didn't come along, so Monty actually went out and found one that needed him and brought it home. So that was our veal calf rescue. He's so sweet, and he actually has a stallmate now named Helen. I don't know if you've read Helen's story.
No, I didn't.
She was born on a dairy farm, so she should have been a dairy cow. She didn't stand the first day, and normally when cows don't stand, something's wrong with them, and they're normally euthanized. One of the women that worked on the farm really took an interest in Helen and spent 3 weeks trying to get her to stand. Usually cows stand within hours, so 3 weeks is really unheard of. And when she finally did stand, she was very wobbly. They had the vet out who diagnosed her with cerebellar hypoplasia, which is a really big way to say that part of her brain is underdeveloped. You see it in cats a lot. Some people have seen the videos of the cats that constantly fall down. Basically, she's really shaky. It doesn't affect her cognitive skills at all. So mentally, she's a perfectly healthy cow, but she walks sort of with all 4 legs spread out, and she falls really easily. And of course, there's no way she could be a dairy cow. She can't sustain a pregnancy. She wouldn't be safe around the equipment.
So when did she come to you guys?
Well, after she was diagnosed, they decided again that they were going to euthanize her once they figured that they couldn't use her as a dairy cow. And the woman that taught her how to walk contacted us and said, originally there were 2, one didn't make it, but she said, you know, I have these cows and I really need to find a place for them. And so she came to us at about, I want to say she was about 6 months old.
Okay.
So, and she lives with Todd now. She'll never be able to go in with the big cows because she's so shaky that one little
when they're trying to give her a hug and a kiss, it's going to be too much for her.
Yeah, she'd fall right over. So she lives with Todd, and Todd's being raised around her, so he'll be really gentle with her. And then the 2 of them will go and live with the goats, which should be fun.
Well, we have so much more to talk about. It's time for us to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our guest, Amanda Hitt from
Sasha
from Sasha Farm Animal Sanctuary.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll put that out.
Hi, welcome back to Elizabeth's Kind Cafe. I'm Elizabeth Katzman, and we are joined again by our guest, Amanda Hitt from Sasha Farm Animal Sanctuary. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the connection between eating animals and the fact that you've got animals at the sanctuary, you know, trying to sort of connect the dots between the choices that we're making, ordering at restaurants and grocery stores, and then how it affects animals and how they live and die. For you personally, are you vegan or vegetarian?
Yeah. When I started at Sasha 4 years ago, I was vegetarian. The day that I went to the job interview, my husband said to me, you're going to end up vegan. And I said to him, you know, there's no way I could ever give up cheese. And I worked there for a couple weeks, and I was cleaning some pig pans one day and watching the cows, and remembering that when I was a kid, my aunt lived by a dairy farm, and there were these calves that we always used to go down and pet, and I remembered them sucking my fingers, and just adorable. And then they would just disappear one day.
Yeah.
And as I'm thinking of those calves, it suddenly dawned on me that, oh my gosh, my childhood playmates were veal calves. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, the meat industry is horrible. The dairy industry is just as bad. And of course, the egg industry is terrible. And then I went home and said, you know what, honey, you were right.
Right, like the cheese tastes good, but can't do it.
And it's not worth it. No, it's not.
Right, but because you know, and also at the sanctuary, you get, I mean, the little baby calf that I met this summer was supposed to be veal, and it's,
right.
You know, such a loving and sweet animal.
Right, and so many people, you know, they won't eat veal. They say, I can't eat a baby cow. Well, the veal industry wouldn't exist without the dairy industry.
That's right.
You know, your cheese supports killing that baby cow.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then you can see at the sanctuary when they're able to live with one another, with their families and friends, how social and sweet they are. I mean, I feel like sometimes people want to make it based on intelligence, that, oh, we're so smart, so it's okay for us. And then, you know, but it's even, and pigs are as smart as a 3 or 4 year old child.
Too smart. Try keeping them inside a pen. They're really smart.
And the reality is, you know, even if they're not smart, they're still living, breathing, you know, animals with feelings and bonds and relationships.
Absolutely. A lot of people that I know are very into elephants and the connections that they make with their family. I think there's that book, When Elephants Weep, or something like that, that talks about their family relationships. But we've seen the same kinds of things at the sanctuary with the cows. They form such close family bonds, and when a cow dies, the other cows will gather around it, and they'll touch it with their nose, and they'll moo this like just gut-wrenching sound. And they won't let us near that cow to bury. Sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's a day or two. And it's just... And
that cow's not necessarily their family, but it's what they've created to be their family. They
create families. Sometimes we'll get a cow in and she'll be pregnant and she'll actually have, you know, her own family, or we'll get aunts and uncles and things like that. But usually it's a family that they've created. Yeah. And
the moms and the calves, do they, when you've seen them together, are they together close their whole...
For life. For life. For life. And the same with goats. If they're allowed, those family groups endure. They stay together, which is another reason that, you know, the dairy industry, the babies aren't allowed to nurse, and they're taken right away. And just, you know, I don't want to be really cheesy, pardon the pun, but as a mother, I really feel for them. Like,
that's what did it for me, was really after I became a mom and, you know, nursed my own kids.
And can you imagine somebody pulling that baby from you and
within a day,
sending it away? And it's just, I can't believe that we still do that to other creatures. It's horrible.
Right. And the goat, when we were there this summer, we saw the baby goats. Are those baby goats are still there?
Yes. Yeah.
Are all of your animals, they continue to live at the farm? Or are you seeking adoptions for them?
We're a lifetime care facility, so all the animals, with the exception of the cats, we still have a few cats for adoption, but all of them stay with us. And the primary reason for that is that with farm animals, we just can't guarantee their safety once they leave us. So many people, they think they want a pet cow or a pet pig or a pet goat, but when the reality of actually keeping that animal sets in, they can't do it. And so if we were to adopt out a cow or a goat, we don't know where they're going to be in 5 years.
Right.
And we're taking responsibility for them, so we want to make sure that they're safe.
Well, and now that people are sort of into having their urban chickens, have you had a growth in chickens that you're needing to take on?
We definitely have. Ann Arbor, which is our sort of closest urban area, has an urban poultry law now. People are allowed to keep hens. And unfortunately, when that happens, we see a lot of unwanted roosters. Roosters aren't allowed in the city. They make a lot of noise. And people will either think it's fun to let some eggs hatch and watch the babies grow, or they'll get a straight run of chicks, which means you're getting kind of 50-50. Some of them will grow up to be roosters, and we're getting calls every day from people trying to find homes for roosters.
And what about pigs? I've heard a little bit about the teacup pigs that were...
Yeah, potbellies.
Yeah. They're supposed to be small, and then they
get big.
Big.
Fortunately, there isn't quite the potbelly problem that there was maybe 10 years ago, but we still have sort of the ancestors of those pigs running around, reproducing. People think that if they have a litter of potbellies, they're going to be able to sell them as pets, and that's just not the case. Most people know now that potbellies don't make great pets. Yeah. So it's hard to find homes for them, and we have probably twice the amount that we want to have, but it's just because the need is so great.
And one of the pigs, I forgot the name of this pig on the sanctuary that we met this summer, but she was enormous. And she's such a perfect example of what's wrong with our system today, how these animals are being bred to be too large for their bodies.
Right.
I don't know, do you know how much she weighs?
Was it the big farm pig?
Yeah.
I would guess 1,100 pounds.
That's what I was thinking.
She's a big girl. And it's that way for pigs and for chickens and turkeys too. When they're bred for meat production, their
bodies grow too fast.
Right. Their skeletal system just can't sustain the weight, and their heart can't either. And unfortunately, our farm pigs, they almost never die a natural death. They're almost always euthanized because their bones just can't handle the load.
Well, we have so much more to discuss, and we just we don't have enough time, and I'm so sorry, but I'm thankful that you came, and it was really wonderful to talk to you and learn more about the sanctuary. Thanks so much for watching Elizabeth's Kind Cafe. Please stick around because we have a recipe segment at the end of the show. Today we're going to be making potato soup. I'm going to make it in the slow cooker, which I love to do because it only takes a couple minutes of prep time. I usually do this meal when I know I'm going to have a really busy day and I'm not going to have time to make dinner. This I can do while the kids are eating breakfast. It literally takes about 5 minutes, so I'll show you how to do it. I already cut up the onion and garlic. Usually I do 2 to 3 garlic cloves depending on how big they are. And I mince them, and then I do about a half a cup of onion. If you don't have onion, then you can use carrots or celery. You can put both in if you'd like. I just like to do about a half a cup portions. And I'm going to saute them for about 2 or 3 minutes in about a tablespoon of olive oil. So I'm gonna throw the onions and garlic on, give it a little toss. Every time I do another step when I'm cooking, I like to just add a little bit of salt and pepper. I like to use kosher salt or sea salt. Do a little pepper to give it a fuller taste. And I'm gonna let the onions and garlic saute, like I said, for about 2 to 3 minutes. I'll just leave that there while I cut the potatoes. I'm going to be using Yukon potatoes, which are very easy to make soup with. And I like to cut them into about 1-inch pieces. And I'm going to continue to give my onions and garlic a little toss while I'm cutting. And Yukon potatoes are a really great source of vitamin C. And they've got some fiber, there's no fat, and it's quite filling. So I'll just put them in a side dish because when I layer all the ingredients in the crock pot, I'm gonna do the onions and garlic first, and then I'll do the potatoes on top of that. And like I said, you can choose different types of vegetables. anything that you happen to have in your refrigerator will do. This is a great dish to use leftovers with. And we're all done with our potatoes. Let's give it one quick cut. And we'll check out our onions. So it's only been about 2 minutes, just long enough to soften the onions and let the flavor come out in the garlic. Turn that off and bring it over to our crock pot. So I just layer the onions and garlic on the bottom and put the 2 pounds chopped Yukon potatoes on top. And I add just a pinch of salt and some fresh ground pepper. And then we're going to add 4 cups of vegetable broth. So I'm vegan, so I don't use chicken broth or beef broth, always vegetable broth. It's great if you make your own. If not, there's a lot of really good varieties in the store. Always choose organic. This is 32 ounces. This is the perfect size. I'm going to pour it all in there. And then afterwards, don't forget to recycle the empty container. We'll put it in, actually these kinds of containers you can recycle with your paper containers or in the bin that you have your plastic with. This is sort of a hybrid container, it can go in either one. And then I add 2 cups of water. And that's it. I turn on the crock pot for 7 hours. So I do this in the morning, and when I come home, it's all ready. And a lot of times I'll put it in a blender afterwards. I'll do smaller portions, put it in the blender. It becomes a really thick, comforting soup. So it's got no fat, nothing bad for you, and yet it feels like a nice comfort food. So thanks for joining me today, and we will see you next time at Elizabeth's Kind Cafe.